Boerne, Texas, just north of San Antonio, might just be the most popular place for people to move to in the Texas Hill Country. Boerne has actually doubled in population since 2010, which is pretty ridiculous if you think about it for a small town that used to have, like 10,000 people. Now it's over 21,000 people. But in this video, we're going to talk about exactly why everybody's moving here and why that might be coming to a stop very soon. For years and years, Boerne has been known as like the perfect little hill country town. Downtown Boerne is actually known as the Hill Country Mile. That's where we're at today. We're shooting this video. But as you're driving north of San Antonio coming into Boerne, it just feels like you're coming into a completely different world. Going up north, San Antonio is very flat, right? So as you're going up north, you're getting into those hills, kind of being surrounded by this hill country views. It's beautiful up here. I just absolutely love it. And you kind of feel like it's just going to a completely, almost a different country really, especially with all the architecture and everything that's here. It's so cool. There are many reasons that people want to move to Boerne, so we're going to talk about a few of those right now. First thing that you really need to know about is the location. So I already kind of mentioned this, as you're driving north of San Antonio, you get into that hill country area, right? But Boerne being just a short drive from San Antonio, I mean, to get from Boerne to downtown San Antonio is like 35 minutes. Super easy commute down there. I have people that have bought houses here in Boerne that commute all the way down to the west side of San Antonio to Lackland Air Force Base. So it is not too bad of a location, especially given how far north it seems looking at it on a map. It's also really close to New Braunfels, easy drive to New Braunfels, and like Fredericksburg, for instance. I mean, it's probably about an hour or so from New Braunfels. Fredericksburg's maybe about 30-45 minutes north of here. And then I think it's a couple hours or so from Austin. So if you really like traveling back and forth to both Austin and San Antonio and want to work from home, Boerne's a pretty cool little spot. You also have those hill country views, like I mentioned. Everywhere around Boerne is all hill country. You can find houses that are in the middle of the hill country on acreage. We'll talk about that when we get to the real estate section of this video. And then there's also a ton of other, different, parks and everything that you can go view that we're going to talk about in a little bit later section of this video as well. In addition to that, because we are a little further north, and just once you get into that hill country area, it gets a little bit cooler than San Antonio. Like I mentioned, San Antonio is much lower than Boerne, so it's a lot flatter, and because it's a little bit lower, we're up in the hill country, a little more elevated. It's a couple degrees cooler on average year round, and then you even get that kind of cool hill country breeze up here. So even in the heat of summer, it makes it a lot more manageable. So for those of you that are moving here and are worried about the Texas heat, for one, San Antonio is not near as bad as some of the other places like Houston could be, or especially if you're coming from Florida. I mean, this is nothing compared to that, the humidity that's over there. But being up here in the hill country with that kind of prevailing hill country breeze and just being naturally a little bit cooler because we're elevated a little bit more, makes it a lot more manageable, especially during that heat of that summer. Number two is actually the schools. So Boerne ISD is probably one of the highest rated school districts in this entire Central Texas area. And it is by far and away one of the main reasons that a ton of people are moving here. I mean, as you can imagine, families, especially with school kids, they're gonna move here because of the highly rated schools. They're gonna try to find highly rated schools in the San Antonio area, and Boerne is really the top cream of the crop when it comes to school districts. Rated at 94 out of 100 on txschools.gov. There's 2 B-rated schools in the entire district. Everything else is an A-rated school. And when it comes to athletic programs, you also have really good athletic programs. They consistently go to state in soccer every year. Football went to state just a couple years ago. Baseball nearly made it. They were one out away, I believe, this last year from getting to state. And not including the schools, but the Boerne Little League actually made it to the final for the United States Championship for the Little League World Series, which is a huge deal worldwide, really. The third thing I want to talk about is that Boerne, being a very small town, has a ton of things to do. So you have a lot of nature, parks, all kinds of stuff. You have Boerne City Lake, you have the River Road Park for Cibolo Creek. You've got the Cibolo Conservation Center. So you can see they're already decorated for Christmas, and they've got all kinds of events that always happen downtown at the Hill Country Mile, right? So they have the big Dickens on Main Christmas celebration every single year. They go all out for Christmas. You can see they're doing some kind of event because they got tables and chairs lined up everywhere back behind us. They also have car shows all the time. There's all kinds of different places where they have like little art festivals, and basically from every walk of life. There's every now and then they'll do stuff like downtown shopping day specifically for like on a Thursday or something, where they'll have wine at all the different little boutiques and things for ladies to go out there and just shop and enjoy time with their friends. So you've got all kinds of things like that. There's also we're like 10-15 minutes from the biggest shopping area in San Antonio, which is the shops at La Cantera and the Rim. You also have multiple different golf courses. You've got the Tapatio Springs area. You've also got Fair Oaks Ranch if you live in Fair Oaks Ranch. And then of course, you just can't forget all the different shopping that's downtown Boerne. I mean, you've got boutiques, you've got bridal shops, you've got toy stores, you've got Black Rifle Coffee Co. and Apache Rifle Works that are, you know, right next to each other. I mean, you've got so many different options down here. Breweries, restaurants, everything that you can imagine. In addition to all those things to do, right, Boerne was actually named one of the top places to retire in the entire state of Texas, just simply for the fact that there is so many things to do like this and you don't ever have to leave the town. There's also multiple different hospitals close by and different healthcare options that you can take into consideration whenever you are looking at finding your retirement home. So Boerne is definitely a great place for that as well. Number 4 is when it comes to real estate options, Boerne is an extremely attractive area. Now, the biggest thing that you have to worry about with Boerne is the prices. Now, prices in Boerne are really high because of the desirability of being in this area. So you have a ton of new construction, you have a ton of luxury home communities that are on acreage, and you've got some that are in between. There's actually also a lot of homes that kind of have that old, like that classic German architecture style that you see around us right now. And some of those houses like downtown, that a lot of them actually are used as Airbnb. Some of them have, you know, just are walking distance from downtown, like where we're at right now. All kinds of different options. Now, when it comes to real estate, you do have to be in that $350 price point as a bare minimum to get into Boerne. So that is kind of a negative, is that the prices are extremely high here in Boerne. And if you're looking at those more affordable homes, those $350,000 to $400,000 price ranges, you're going to need to be willing to move quick on something. Kind of keep an eye out, because those sell a lot faster than anything else in this area. Now, when we're looking at the luxury communities, the epitome of the luxury communities in Boerne is Cordillera Ranch. Cordillera Ranch is actually one of the top tier luxury communities in all of the San Antonio area and all of Central Texas, really. It has got a crazy amount of amazing amenities, a really high quality, probably nationally renowned golf course at Cordillera Ranch that was actually designed by Jack Nicklaus. And plenty of other celebrities live there too, like George Strait lives there. I think one of the drummers from Aerosmith, a couple others, a couple professional golfers, just because of the golf course, live there too. But it's like ranch style homes, right? So you don't have like 1 acre lots that are in there. It's like there's like 20, 30 acre estates in that neighborhood. There's 57 miles of roads just within Cordillera Ranch by itself. Just absolutely insane. You also have other ones too, like you know, Esperanza. Whenever it comes to new construction, is probably the most popular new construction neighborhood, and I would say probably Esperanza, and then the newest one, Corley Farms, is just selling like crazy. It's right off of I-10. That one's a Pulte and a Perry home neighborhood. Esperanza has a ton of different builders. They have Perry, they have Highland, they have Chesmar. I want to say they have Monticello, Scott Felder. Might have a couple others, but they've got a ton of builders there. A lot of crazy good amenities as well. And those neighborhoods legitimately live up to the hype that you read about online. Now, when it comes to prices, the new construction homes are actually on average a little bit lower priced than the pre-owned home. And that's a lot because of those luxury markets, right? They bring that average price quite a bit higher. Now, the new construction average price is about $575,000. So you have a good majority of those houses in like Corley Farms, for instance, that are in that $400,000, low 400s to mid 400s price range. They're selling a bunch of those because it is one of the most affordable communities, especially new construction, that Boerne has seen in a long time. And then when it comes to pre-owned, you're actually looking at an average price of like $744,000. And again, just because of those older luxury communities drive that average price point way up. And looking at the overall market, composition, right? New construction takes up about 30% of the market, and then homes on a half acre or more also take up 31% of the market. So you can see there's a wide variety, and there's a lot of different types of real estate here in Boerne, which makes it another reason that it's a lot more attractive for people moving here. And now, as we're talking about the real estate, guys, my name is Michael McCall. I run the Life in San Antonio, Texas home group. We work all over the San Antonio area: Boerne, Bulverde, New Braunfels, Seguin, La Vernia, west out to Castroville, Helotes. I've done deals all the way out to Bandera. So if you are looking at moving to the San Antonio area, to Boerne specifically, give me a call, reach out. I can definitely help you guys with that move, give you any details that you need to know about these areas, talk to you about the housing options around here, and just most importantly, make it feel like that this is the right decision for you guys to move here. So whether you're looking to move here in 2 days, 2 years, you're planning for retirement, planning for a long-term move for the family, whatever it is, reach out. My information is right here. It's also down below in every single one of my videos. You can also check out my website, lifeinsanantoniotexas.com, Instagram page at lifeinsatx, all those different things. You can contact me in any one of those places, guys. I would love to help you guys out with your move here to San Antonio. Now, probably the most important thing and the most important reason that you should consider moving to Boerne is the people. Just like I talk about in San Antonio, how it is a very family-oriented place. It feels like a small town in a big city. This is the same vibe that you get in Boerne. Everybody's super friendly, welcoming to people that are moving in here. So it's a place that if you're moving, especially from out of state, and you're worried about coming to Texas from maybe coming from California, Boerne's a place you'll fit in. Now, you may ask, I mentioned in the beginning, there's people that may stop moving to Boerne. Well, what exactly could cause them to stop moving? There's so many good things about Boerne I've already talked about. Let's talk about some of those negatives. So when it comes to small towns, there's small town infrastructure, right? When you have this many people moving to an area this quickly, it can put a big strain on that infrastructure and put a big strain on the city governments to maintain this growth in a safe and responsible manner. So you have lots of conservation that's been going on with the Cibolo Conservation Center, Cibolo Center for Conservation. They're doing a lot to make sure that the water situation in Boerne stays up to speed and make sure that the water supply does not run out for the city of Boerne for obvious reasons. We get a lot of water from Canyon Lake. 59% of Boerne's water comes from Canyon Lake, actually. And then you also have all these developments that are coming in and buying up these ranches. And so they've historically been pretty, good about not selling a lot of these big ranches and not rezoning these places to the developers that want to put all these houses in them. Well, that's why you have a lot of these luxury communities out here. So it's less housing density, right? Well, that has changed, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but kind of getting back to the water side of things. So one last thing that I'll mention about the nature preservation, especially that Cibolo Center for Conservation, is they've been fighting a lot of these developers constantly. So there is one developer that is working on building something, that's D.R. Horton, and I've heard of a lot of things that have been happening at city council meetings where they're trying to keep these developers, and I mean, it's one thing, like to come in and develop property, but develop it the right way. Make sure there's not the crazy wastewater runoff, draining of the natural resources, make sure they're keeping a lot of the land as natural as they can and not just completely clearing a big piece of property and putting a bunch of houses on it. I've seen a lot of that stuff in Boerne, which is really, really good. Another big negative that a lot of people talk about, and even nationally, I saw an article on Yahoo Finance talking about 6 small towns that could soon become unaffordable, and Boerne was actually on that list. We already talked about the prices being incredibly high. Well, if you look at the average price of the homes currently listed for sale, and again, you have $4, $5, $6 million properties, so this kind of skews that average, but the average price of homes listed for sale right now in Boerne is over $900,000. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. Now, there are plenty that are in that $400,000 range, but that is like bare minimum. So for first-time home buyers, it makes it really, really challenging to buy a home, especially a starter home in Boerne, or even a second home. I mean, this is kind of an area where you get into that forever home. You're spending a lot more money on your house, and you're just going to stay in it a much longer term because you are spending a much higher price on it. And of course, with those higher prices, you're going to be keeping people from moving here. I mean, there's a lot of people that would love to be here in Boerne. They call me and say, hey, can I get a $250,000 house up there? No chance at all. Now, I will say that one good benefit of Boerne that kind of helps with that is the low property taxes. So there's neighborhoods outside the city limits of Boerne where there's property taxes of 1.38%, which in San Antonio, you're looking at an average of 2.3, 2.4% in the entire area. So it is a huge difference. I mean, that's almost half of the property taxes from Boerne to San Antonio, so it makes that burden a lot better. And even in the city limits of San Antonio or of Boerne, you're looking at like around a 1.8%. And the last point that I'll talk about, I mentioned all the natural preservation that needs to go on with all of these big developments, and that's residential and commercial developments, right? But whenever you look at the overall city of Boerne, long ago, I mean, especially, really even in the recent history of Boerne, they've always been very lax on approving these big developments. It's always been more like keep it small, don't let this growth go crazy like New Braunfels. I mean, New Braunfels is just absolutely blown up. I mean, New Braunfels was what Boerne is right now many years ago, and they just exploded, right? So that is what Boerne can kind of look to and kind of see as the future if they don't keep this under control. Well, that is changing a lot, and I know a lot of people want to move to Boerne to get away from those kind of cookie cutter tract home subdivisions, and there's some of them that have started building. They've you got Shoreline Park, which is up on Boerne City Lake. Literally backs up to Boerne City Lake. It's KB Home neighborhood. Very small lots up there. Corley Farms is an example. There's really nice houses there and they're higher priced, right? But you have tract home subdivision in an area that was a big ranch and is across from some of these luxury subdivisions. And that really turns a lot of people off, especially if they are looking at Boerne as a long-term investment and they don't want it to turn into what New Braunfels is right now. I have a lot of people that want to buy in, either Boerne or New Braunfels, and they pick Boerne strictly because it is a lot smaller and seems like they're doing a better job at the development. But these developers coming in and doing all of these big tract home neighborhoods could turn people off for sure. And then the last one that I'll mention is the D.R. Horton community that I mentioned a minute ago. Spencer Ranch just started being developed, 71 acres, going to be 200 homes on these 71 acres just outside of, just right across 46 from where the Home Depot is at. And that is a big sticky point right now for a lot of residents here in Boerne, trying to keep that from happening because it's a big thing to have a D.R. Horton subdivision in your neighborhood, in your town. That's kind of what the preface is of, hey, things are really getting ready to explode. So it's a lot of people don't like that, and that's going to keep some people that are looking at Boerne, maybe that's going to keep them from moving here, and they may decide on another area. Overall, guys, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, I think Boerne is one of the best areas that you can move to in all of San Antonio. You really got to know the negatives with the positives in every single one of these areas. So if you are considering moving to Boerne, as always, please reach out. I do not hesitate to reach out and ask any questions that you have, guys. If you want to look at reasons why you may not want to move to Boerne and see a true video all about the negatives, take a look at this video right here, the reasons why you may not want to move to Boerne. And until the next one, we'll see you there.